How many times after the Second World War we said never again? Then we had a war on the territory of former Yugoslavia. Soon we will mark 3 years since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. President, honourable members of the European Parliament, this is a sombre milestone. During these 3 years, the Ukrainian people have endured unimaginable hardship. Families have been torn apart and many lives have forever changed. 3 years of children learning to read in underground schools. 3 years of people worrying about their loved ones. 3 years of running for shelter almost every night. But through the darkness, the Ukrainian people have shown impressive bravery and resilience. Ukrainians have stood together to defend not only their land, but also their values, their freedom and their future. A future that they see as a member of the European Union. On my first day in office, during my visit to Kiev, I met Maxim Butkevich, a human rights activist. He had spent 2 years in Russian captivity. He told me, what helped me survive was believing in values. Values gave him hope. He looked at the European Union as a guardian of human dignity, of freedom and democracy, of solidarity and human rights. His dream of a better tomorrow gave him hope during the darkest times. Many in Ukraine look to Europe because they have seen a world without values, a world of brutality, injustice and impunity. This is the fundamental issue at the heart of this war. What kind of world do we want to live in? A world where military power dictates the fate of nations, or a world built on rules, rules that ensure that every nation has the right to decide its own future. The courage and resilience of the Ukrainian people have inspired the world, but inspiration alone is not enough. This is not just Ukraine's fight. It is a fight for the values that defined all us and for Europe's very own security. Ukraine needs our continued political, economic and military support. Ukraine's fight is also our fight for a Europe that values justice over aggression and unity over division. By supporting Ukraine, we are also safeguarding the very foundations of European peace and security. Together, we must remain resolute. The European Commission, together with all institutions and member states, has mobilised unprecedented support for Ukraine on many fronts. Military support to continue its courageous fight against the aggressor, humanitarian assistance for millions of Ukrainians, both those in the country and those seeking protection in the EU, economic and financial support to ensure that states can maintain essential public services and that the economy continues functioning. This includes repairing energy infrastructure, a constant target of Russian attacks, and ensuring with the solidarity lanes that Ukrainian exports can reach the global markets where Ukrainian grain is most needed. We are also setting the foundations of Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction after the devastation of the war. And we are also supporting Ukraine to implement ambitious reforms that will bring it closer to EU membership. On all these fronts, the European Commission is responding decisively in coordination with the Member States. By now, combined support from the EU and Member States exceeds 134 billion. Together, we are the largest international donor and the largest public investor in Ukraine's defence sector. Let me give you some examples. We have established the Ukraine facility, which is providing up to 50 billion in grants and loans. This helps Ukraine continue functioning and advance its ambitious reform agenda. The Ukraine facility comes on top of more than 28 billion in macro-financial assistance that the EU has provided since 2022. We have also mobilised 48.5 billion in crucial military support. We have contributed over 1 million rounds of ammunition and will have trained 50,000 soldiers by the end of this winter. 4.5 million people who fled the war have received temporary protection in the EU, and we are working closely with international and European financial institutions to set the foundations of Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction. The EU has taken resolute steps to support Ukraine, and our commitment must not waver. Ukraine deserves just peace. We must put Ukraine in a position of strength, especially ahead of potential discussions to end this war of aggression. Ukraine will need strong, credible, long-term security guarantees to deter future attacks. The EU will continue using revenues from immobilised Russian assets to support Ukraine's defence industry, provide ammunition and air defence, and finance urgent reparations of energy infrastructure. Work is ongoing to integrate EU and Ukrainian industrial bases. And the European Union is preparing further sanctions packages to further hamper Russia's ability to wage this war. At the same time, we will continue supporting Ukraine implement the necessary reforms in their path towards the European Union. This is where they belong. The Ukrainian people are undertaking tremendous efforts under very difficult circumstances, and the European Union should recognise this. This is the merit-based nature of the EU enlargement policy. We should match their efforts and open the first negotiation cluster, the cluster on fundamentals, as soon as possible this year. Our European message to Ukraine is clear. Ukraine is part of our European family. We will stand with you, and we will bring you in the European Union where you belong.